Woo! Good morning, everybody.
Hey,
Good
good
morning.
morning. I love it.
Morning.
We've got a rambunctious group here. We must be ending March and heading into April. I didn't even get a chance to say good morning, happy Saturday, happy walk and talk. We already got the woohoos and going. But that said, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Super duper.
Great.
All right.
Great.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, hey, people are still coming in. I'll just give a quick hit on something that I likely will be covering is so many of us are familiar with the James Clear book, Atomic Habits. It's so critical. Habit forming, of course, in healthy lifestyles, healthy habits, certainly the HealthPointe program. And I'm going to do a bit of a review on that. And with all due respect to James Clear, I'm going to say there's still one element that is missing from that wonderful book. And I'm going to cover that in my segment. So with that said, what we like to do is go around the horn. And I believe Bruce and Eileen, I saw you walking in beautiful blue skies, not on a cruise ship somewhere or something like that. So are you domestic? Are you in Florida? Where are you at?
Yeah, we're home. We just had company for 10 days, and then we had a little other company the day before when we got home from our cruise. So it's been busy. Thanks for getting us in. We actually have to leave the house at 8:30 with breakfast, change of clothes, and snacks. So we've been out for an hour already and headed home.
Wow.
So what I wanted to share was what Carol asked me to share. My mom's 84. She won't get up and do walk and talk. She's got to sleep, she said. But she's lost 20 pounds. She was pretty immobile. Yeah, it's great. And she always said her only fun was going out to eat with her girlfriends. So now she's finding other fun aside from just that. And with her physical therapy, she's been walking. Carol, I don't know what step she's up to, but she was trying for 4,000 and she started at like 1,500 or something. So
I think you're getting pretty close.
Yeah. So the exciting thing for her is she has sleep apnea, and the doctor tried different masks. She couldn't breathe all night long, even with the CPAP. And she doesn't know why, but now she's got almost 100% score on her CPAP. And she's not having issues since the 20 pounds and the change of eating. She assumes it's because of that. So it's good.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to say.
What a lifestyle improvement. So let me see if I understand this. She was she was struggling with some sleep, some dysregulated sleep. And then she had a CPAP machine that she was using. And is that kind of the trajectory that I'm understanding?
Yeah. So she is still using the same machine, but now it's working, where before it basically was not working well at all. She was getting like 20 episodes. Oh, I don't know the numbers, but it's really good now.
Wow.
Well, I think she said that she was getting anywhere from 25 to almost 30 interruptions. And what she said the other day was, since she went on the HealthPointe program and lost some of her weight, that she was down to 1 to 3 episodes now. I guess that would be per hour. I think it's
per hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is per hour.
Yeah.
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 So it's exciting for her.
Wow. That's got to be just tremendous for her, just in terms of her own, lifestyle enjoyment. Dysregulated sleep can really set up a cascading series of health challenges and just overall fatigue. I'm so glad to hear that, Eileen. That is, and you've got to be thrilled as well.
I'm real happy for her because she really had no hope before. She just was, she's overweight and she's just like, well, I'm going to die like this. And she has a lot of health problems. So she has a little hope now, and she's walking a little bit. Like I asked her if you're going to still take the little cart in the grocery store. And she said, well, for now I'm going to. but you know, the electronic one. But she's walking a little bit more, which is great, really good.
Yeah, just, little bit by little bit, that those little victories, and certainly this one with the sleep is a pretty substantial victory. And you know how, and we've all experienced this, Eileen. I know certainly you and Bruce have experienced this, where you have those little early victories, and with that momentum, it leads to a little bit more confidence and more victories and more confidence and more victories, and pretty soon you just feel like you're absolutely can take on the world, where 6 months earlier you're like, hardly could relate to your former self. So maybe your mom's on that trajectory as well.
Yeah, and I saw a picture of me a month after I started HealthPointe, and Bruce with his big belly, me just everywhere. I'm like, I can't even relate to that now. I can't even relate. So I did want to share, after our cruise, I decided I've been on 7 months. I'd have a little of this, little of that. And I'm like, when we get home, I'm going right back at it. I don't want to have that as my lifestyle. And I don't know if you remember that picture I posted in the HealthPointe thing of me in a blue dress. I was so excited that,
Mhm.
I look so good. I put that dress on yesterday. I'm like, this dress is too big on me.
I
Yeah. So
love it.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get to my goal. And yeah, and just happy with our lifestyle. Thank you guys. Thanks for the support and the program.
Well, thank you guys for your amazing example and leadership and influence on others. So, and thanks for hopping on here this morning. I know you guys are always tight on schedule, and once again you are, but thanks for sharing, and we'll let you get back to your morning, but thanks.
We
Bye.
love
All
to
right.
share your story.
Yeah, we love this. So, so who would like to go next? Anybody? Carol, are you wanting to share?
Sure. I'd like to bounce off of Eileen because when we sat down with Phyllis before she started the program, here's the power of influence. She looked at Eileen and she said, I want to be that. And Eileen and Bruce were the example, the living example, and influenced Phyllis. I don't know that Phyllis would have ever believed that she could have made these gradual changes that she's starting to see, and she'll see plenty more of them as she moves on in her journey. But it was somebody that walked before her, and that was Bruce. Well, Eileen first, and then Bruce, and that's the power and the influence that we have when we go on this program, or we coach somebody, and they effectively drop their numbers as Bruce and Eileen have so beautifully. And now Phyllis, not only with the sleep apnea, but I believe there was another one, her cardiologist dropped her medication, I think, in half. And so these are all tremendous signs, even with just a weight loss of 20 pounds. And look at the difference already. And so that's the power that we have in this program, is the influence that we have to help other people. And when we walk that walk first, and especially currently, as with Bruce and Eileen, then we can influence other people and help them believe that they can do the same thing. And, it's interesting. Last night, of course, I went to the Good Friday service, and then we came home, and our daughter, Kelsey, for those of you that are not aware, she plays for Duke, softball for Duke University. So we did a replay of their game. So I had softball fresh in my mind, and I had her coach, Marissa. Marissa is a tremendous coach for Duke women's softball, and she actually was a top softball athlete at University of Michigan. So for all of you Michiganders, you should be very proud, Marissa Wright. And I do want to say that Marissa has hit over the last year some unbelievable challenges with her husband, and some illness that he has, various illnesses that he has, life-threatening. And through it all, she was able to maintain being the wife, the mom of 4 kids, and still taking Duke to where they are today, which is top tier. And we think they are going to be top tier probably after this weekend. But all that being said, what that made me think of when I was going to bed last night is the power of things that Marissa did many years ago when she was at U of M, and she picked up the basics, and she did the basics very well, and she embraced the basics, and she internalized the basics. And as a result, it's taken her onto a very successful career. And that's what we do in HealthPointe, not in the softball field, of course, or any athletic field, but in our own personal field. And we take some basic balanced ideas and we embrace them and we internalize them, and we make them part of us. And then we can influence and help other people, just as Marissa did with her team at Duke, where she took a Duke softball team that was nothing and brought it up to top tier in just a few short years, just since Kelsey's been in school there. So we can do the same thing with people. We can influence. And I love the HealthPointe program because it kind of makes me think, and I'm so glad you're going to be talking about atomic habits, because it's just so true that, it goes back to what we always say, gentlemen, this is a football. I mean, I've used that example of Vince Lombardi so many times, but you go back to the basics. And HealthPointe is a very balanced, basic program. And that's what I love about it. As many podcasts and as many professionals in all various health fields, and all of them absolutely tremendous individuals, so knowledgeable and with such great ideas. But then I go back to our simple program, HealthPointe, that has been working for 30 years plus successfully for people. And I think of the basics of the HealthPointe program and how balanced and basic it is. And I think the whole beauty of the program is in the balance, the simplicity of it. You think of, okay, you lose weight because you're starting to eat a balanced diet. This is something we should have done all along. It's not just all protein. It's not just all carbs. It's not this crazy fad and that crazy fad. It is just a balanced eating program of healthy foods. And then we fill in those supplements with balanced supplement. We fill in the eating program with balanced supplements through the XX and the omegas and other things such as, bars and shakes and whatever your particular needs are. But then again, we go into balance. We fill in those nutritional gaps that we've lost because of farming practices. We fill them in with the nutrition. So again, you go into balance. No extremes. Is a balanced supplementation program. And then we balance it out with hydration. We need hydration. This is not something that should have been taught to us. We need this, but HealthPointe brings it to the forefront. And then the basic walking, where, many of us are out walking right now, getting that habit of basic walking, not pumping iron, not an Arnold Schwarzenegger or, extremist, just getting out and walking, moving the body. And then the balance of your blood work, as you start moving along in the program and you go to your doctor and you get your blood work done. And just like what Eileen just said about her mom and the sleep apnea, and Eric, I don't want to steal your thunder because you might talk about this, but I think it's pretty phenomenal. You were sharing the other day about one of your clients' A1C numbers dropping in a relatively short period of time. Blood work numbers. You hear from Eileen, you hear from Larry, you hear from a whole bunch of people, David, all kinds of people on this program, and you hear from them how their numbers are regulating and they're starting to move down. And in many cases, they can shed medications because of being able to just bring those numbers down back into the normal range. And so I love HealthPointe for its sheer simplicity. And then I think one of the most important things, and I think Eileen brought this out, and Eric, you do so many times, and that is the mental detox that we go through. And we do that through books like what you're going to talk about. We do that through audio listening that our Network 21 supported artificial intelligence, intellectual properties gives us. All of those types of things build us in a real balanced, healthy, natural way, the way God intended us to be. So I'm so sold on HealthPointe, and I will be on record to say that to my knowledge, there is nothing that I've ever been exposed to that has the complete and balanced program like the HealthPointe program. So I want us to always remember that when we're talking to people. We have the best. We have the overall best. And so you can go out there in confidence and tell people, if you follow this program, I'm not going to guarantee you anything, but if you follow this program like it's supposed to be followed, our experience has been that you will get tremendous results from it, depending on whatever your, and I just heard, anyway, so I just wanted to end with that. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you. I got sidetracked on a text that just came in.
That's okay. That's okay. In fact, it's something that came to mind because Carol, you and I were recently bouncing around some things, or I was kind of bouncing something off of you and saying, I wonder if I should talk on this topic. And one of the things when it comes to, the health field is, I mean, it's all very, very intriguing, right? And you can go down rabbit holes on this and rabbit holes on this, but I love what Carol is reemphasizing and covering here. And that is that the HealthPointe program is, it's a balanced program. And the way I think of that is it's a doable program. And one of the things that I know Emily and I have chatted about before is, and I do enjoy, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy some of these health professionals, podcasts, and so forth like that. But it's always fun to note, do they coach anyone? Or do they just YouTube? Do they coach anyone, or do they just write books? Do they coach anyone, or do they just write blogs? Because when it comes to some of these headline grabbing, sensational statements and intriguing science, I grant that. But who's implementing that? And so I think that sometimes, not that there's not some science to back it up, but there's some topics out there that make for great YouTube views, kind of what you might call clickbait because of the way something is phrased, or, hey, maybe you should check into this. And I'm not talking about, cabbage soup diets and stuff like that. That's really wacko, but rather things that have some science into it. But then I wonder, I go, that is so extreme. The nuances of that is so extreme. I wonder if they've actually coached a single person on what it is that they're conveying. Whereas with HealthPointe, it may not be as headline grabbing. It may be, quote unquote, boring, balanced, livable, do it for the next year, do it for the next 5 years, do it for the next 10 years, 20 years, for the rest of your lifetime, because it's so scalable and doable, but it's not necessarily as headline grabbing. So, and Carol, thank you for, I know we were kind of collaborating and bouncing things back and forth on that particular topic, which I'm not going to go into, but you helped me with a refreshing reminder that, as you say, gentlemen, this is a football.
Yeah.
Let's bring it right back. So I don't know if you want to comment any more on that before we go past the puck here, but any other thoughts on that?
Well, you can pass the puck and get into hockey, because we did baseball, we did softball, and we did football. So now we can pass the puck.
All right. Well, I don't
I'll
know
take
who
the
that
puck.
brings-
I'll take the puck.
Okay, we got a hockey fan. We got a hockey fan.
See,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Oh,
We're
my
gonna
gosh,
win
look at that.
today. We're gonna
Oh,
win
wow.
today. We have to win today.
We didn't even script that, but that is
No.
awesome. Go for it. Go for it.
All right.
Any hockey metaphors out there, Kathy?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say just keep shooting and eventually you're gonna score. I mean, that's definitely what the Red Wings have to focus on. So, but yes, no, yeah, for a hockey metaphor, it would be keep shooting. Just keep following the program, you know, drink your water, do your steps, eat your snacks within no more than a 2-hour increment. Even if you're not that hungry, just eat a half a bar or a bite of something and some water. So yeah, I guess the metaphor would just be keep shooting and eventually you're going to score. And I mean, and you know, you can probably get some really good empty netters like Bruce and Eileen have done, you know? So, okay.
I
So,
love that.
so
And hey, is today kind of a special day for you?
it is. We are at the 2-year mark today.
Woo! Yeah.
Yes. 1 year,
Confetti
365 days.
confetti dropping. Yeah.
So yeah, it did drop when it said, you know, yesterday you're on a 365-day streak. So I won't know till tonight when I finish it to go to 366 if it's going to do anything special or if it's just going to say you're on a 366-day streak. But as we all know, it is special. So whether I get confetti or anything extra tonight, once I do it, doesn't matter. I mean, the fact is that I did it and I can say that I did it, you know.
That is a huge, huge accomplishment. So 2 years of getting 10,000 steps in or more per day, every day for 2 years at the conclusion of today. I wanted to ask because we're covering a little bit on atomic habits and they talk about, you know, cues, time and place cues to trigger the habit. Now you've been doing this now for 2 years. Maybe it truly is a habit, but is there any particular cue during your day or at different points in your day that kind of trigger, hey, now it's time to go get some steps? I mean, for example, I know that Saturday mornings, there's a cue, right? Because you're doing this Zoom and you're always walking. So that would be, hey, it's Saturday morning. I've got a cue that kind of triggers me to start taking some steps inside the house and doing this. Are there any other cues that you use that might be particularly helpful for new people that maybe struggle with just that cue to trigger getting some maybe 1,000 steps in, maybe 2,000 steps in?
Well, you know, like I've complained about before on Mondays when I work remote from home. Mondays are always tough because I'm just sitting at my desk. I'm not getting up to go to the printer and get the things that I've been working on at work, which usually is like, you know, 10 steps there and back, which can add up over an hour, you know, if you're up at the printer 5, 6, 7, 8 times within an hour. But here at home, I'm saving everything to a document and adding to a list. Print this when you get there, print this, print that. So yeah, I have an alarm set on my phone for, well, actually I don't have to do it anymore because I have the Apple Watch, and at 10 minutes to the hour, it says, hey, get up and move. So if you don't have an Apple Watch, set an alarm on your phone for every hour, just to look and, you know, when the alarm goes off, go, oh, I should get up and at least walk 5 or 10 steps or walk down the hallway or, you know, whatever your situation is, you know, because that is one way that it does help me get some, you know. And then, like I've said before, my lunch hours, you know, after I eat lunch, I take my extra, you know, 40 minutes left of my lunch hour and I just walk the lobby, you know.
Which is let me just kind of double click on that is not only what you're talking about as far as a cue, but we all know also that independent of that, getting some walking in after you eat is very healthy, right? Because our muscles are firing, of course, and muscles are like a sink to suck up glucose. And so by instead of eating and sitting down and, you know, just sitting or on a couch or a chair, instead, walking after eating is not only a cue to get your steps, but also very good for glucose regulation. I know before you started this program, you were diagnosed pre-diabetic, right?
Right. 5 years ago, lost 58 pounds, have kept it off the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. So
And only been
great.
doing the
So
10,000 for 2 years. So prior to that on the program, I probably did between 65 to 7,500 a day. Never under 5. I never let myself get under 5. But
right.
you know, the majority of the time was 65 to 7,500. So if you're new, don't think, oh my God, I got to do 10,000 steps today. No, don't kill yourself. Grow, you know, build up to it gradually, you know, because every step you're doing now is more than you did the day before. And that's the way you have to look at it too, you know. And even if you're building, if, you know, say you get 500 one day, the next day you get 550, that's 50 more than you did the day before. So yay,
Right.
keep shooting and you'll score. So
there's that Go Red Wings hockey metaphor on that. So you've got you've got your Apple Watch, or if people don't have something like that that's going to kind of ping them or buzz them or something like that, everybody's got a smartphone, which means everybody's got the ability to have an app on their phone, which is going to be some sort of an alarm system. I know with myself, I will tell you that is absolutely my cue. In fact, I don't know how people do habits without, certain habits without an alarm on their phone, because I know with myself, if it wasn't for that alarm, I just know that, with the busyness of my life, it's flexible busy. I like it. It's a good lifestyle, but it is busy. And if I didn't have something going off on my phone and I look down and I go, oh, I need to do X, which is a habit. For example, my daily check-in, to this day, that happens every time via an alarm on my phone. And that's what I encourage other people to do that I'm coaching is, here's your window of time to check in. How are you going to cue that up for yourself? May I suggest, do you have an app on your phone that has an alarm? What time, do you wake up and so forth? So we rely on that app on the phone. So Kathy, you use that as a cue. You use your lunch as a cue. You use your kind of some consistent work that you do when you're in the office, which is like going to the copy machine and stuff like that, as a cue. Your lunch break, I should say, as a cue. Any other cues? Anything besides these Saturday mornings when you're at home? Anything else that you use as a cue, or that you think other people might be able to relate to in their lifestyle as a cue to get their steps in?
Like I said before, when I'm at home, I'm very cognizant all day long of how many I've gotten, because now it's just like, I got to get the 10, I got to get the 10, so you check throughout the day, but then once I'm home, I'm usually around 6,000, between 6 and 7 on a work day, so that's still 3,000 or 4,000 to kick out, after 5 o'clock at night, so I would try to think, okay, what can I do? So, I got to cook dinner. Okay, well, instead of grabbing all my ingredients from the fridge at one time, I take them one at a time and walk them to the counter. It's only like 4 or 5 steps every time, but that could be 20 steps as opposed to 5 steps. You're getting it, you need the steps anyway. You need to prep dinner anyway. It's not going to take you that much longer to walk those couple extra steps to get those things out of the fridge and back.
So that's interesting. So you're taking other things that pretty much
other activities that they have to get done. Right.
Yeah. And you just think about them in a new way. Think about them in a way that will allow you to increase, it'd be like the equivalent of some people, like when they're working at home, that chose to have like a stand-up desk. They still have to be at a desk. They still have to be at a computer. It's a decision and a choice and a strategy as to whether to sit in the chair and work 8 hours a day, or stand up or move around a bit. So you're doing your cooking, and you're just integrating certain strategies in there to increase. And I don't know what that adds up to, say, with cooking, or I also know I've heard you talk about with like folding laundry and stuff like that. But that's got to add up to hundreds, if not thousands, of steps just between the like laundry and cooking type activities that you've changed to integrate steps. Would that be about right?
Yeah, I would say. I would say probably cooking might be like around, because I have a small kitchen. So I would say probably maybe about 300 steps to prep a meal. you know, I do it emptying the dishwasher too. You
Mhm.
know, try to take, you know, instead of trying to take as many plates as you can at one time, as most of us Dukes are trying to get done and get it all done, I'll take one plate at a time if I'm under in steps, you know.
Mhm.
And like I said, it might take a couple extra minutes, but I'm at least getting something done instead of just walking the halls aimlessly like I'm doing right now, you know, which
Mhm.
sometimes I end up doing as well too, because you have to get them in, you know. So
Right.
and yeah, folding clothes, probably about 500 for folding clothes, you know, because you can kind of step that out. You know, you can take one sock and then go back and grab another sock and then roll them together while you're walking, you know, fold a towel, and take it to the cupboard, and then go back and grab another towel, fold it, take it to the closet. You know, these are all daily things that we busy moms have to do. And so you might as well get the most benefit for your buck. So
Yeah,
because even
absolutely.
if it takes, say, 15 minutes to fold the clothes instead of, say, 5, if I was sitting there at one time, now I've gotten maybe another 1,000 steps in that I don't have to walk around aimlessly doing nothing except walking to get my
Mhm.
steps in, you know?
That's great. Well, I tell you, those are all super great. I think we could, in fact, it might be a fun exercise sometime to go around the horn and just get a kind of a no pun intended, a laundry list of things that people use. I know I'll throw out a couple that that I use a lot. So we specifically with coaching, but also in other use cases, I'm big on voice memos. So I use the WhatsApp app. I use the Facebook Messenger app. I use the Voxer app. I use the Telegram app for various, you know, coaching and business operations. In other words, instead of phone calls and texts where you're typing out, where, you know, it might not be safe even in your home to be walking around typing, looking down at your screen, but to push a button and record a 1 or 2 minute voice memo, reply to somebody, that I'm almost always doing while I'm walking, like you're walking in your home, Kathy, and I just pace back and forth. So guys, you know, we spend so much time on our phones. Do we have to do that sitting down? No, most of those activities we can do absolutely walking and pacing and getting some movement, and it's just movement. That's all it is. Another one that I would throw out too, because you know, hey, we all like to, you know, watch a program here or a movie or a Netflix or something like that. And does that have to be always sitting down? No, it doesn't. And I've had many times, particularly like Kathy, like you're saying, where you're like, oh, I need another 1,000 steps or something, but it's, you know, it's 8:30 at night or 9 o'clock at night. You know, I've done a lot of Netflix, you know, where I'm just pacing behind the couch for that extra, you know, 10 minutes is going to get you about 1,000 steps. And, you know, it's just so much more satisfying when you feel that buzz. In my case, I wear a Fitbit, and you feel that buzz on your wrist, you clocked over 10,000, than it is to, you know, sit there at 9,000 while you're enjoying your Netflix movie or whatever. So that's another one, is when you're watching TV or a movie or something like that, you know, there's nothing written that says you have to do it sitting on a couch. You actually can watch it standing up or walking. And in fact, little added benefit, maybe you won't watch, you know, 7 hours of Netflix if you are walking the whole time. You know, you won't be as attractive. But that said, Kathy, I know you're going to be rooting on some Red Wings and watching some shots on goal, as many others. Thank you so much for adding value, and congratulations again on 1 year and 365 days, I guess is how we officially say it right now, or as we're starting your 365th day. But thanks for contributing, and go Wings, right?
Thank you. Yes, for sure.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in next? I love my Bueller comment. I had some comments from some people that were familiar with that movie.
I'll
And
jump in on that one.
All right. All right. Go for it, David.
First of all, I just wanted you to know that Chris and I watched that movie this past week. So,
All right.
and so,
Bueller?
yes,
Bueller.
yes, yes. And so, in my family, I have 2 daughters, and so my wife and I are as opposite as can be, and have been married for 50 years. My daughters are even more opposite than my wife and I, and so completely different. And so we had a birthday party at my house this past week with my daughters, and my one daughter buys into 100% into Nutrilite. And part of it is that when my granddaughter was born, she had health issues she didn't get stable for about 2 years. She's doing wonderful now, but her immune system is sensitive. Recently, she was in 2 plays. She's into drama. She was involved in 2 plays simultaneously. Can't imagine having that many lines in my head at one time. But we were mainlining her with Nutrilite at the end because her body was falling apart from so much intensity and stress at the same time. And so we have cut her back to where she can only be in 1 play at a time. But having said that, my youngest daughter was going to back out of coming to the birthday party because her daughter was sick, and she's a kindergartner. Her kids are always sick. And my daughter is sick occasionally, and so is her husband. And they will not buy into Nutrilite at all. I have talked, obviously they know me. She lived with me. She used to take XX when she was in college and she lived with us. You know, I would make her do that in order to keep her healthy. But what it is it's the contrast. She said, my daughter's sick. Is it okay? Maybe we shouldn't come over. I said, no, come on over. We'll have the party. Now I call my oldest daughter, and we basically laugh. And we just said, yeah, we're all on Nutrilite. We've been on Nutrilite for 10 years. All of us, our immune systems are good. We seldom miss work. We seldom miss school. And so anyways, just the power of Nutrilite, and within little, just observations within my own little family of the difference of the one side that takes Nutrilite faithfully, especially the omegas. I'm just big on omegas for keeping people happy, and those who don't. And so just an interesting contrast. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you, David. And you know that the supplementation, some episodes ago, I did a little segment on the little BRIX device, BRIX, that you can use very easily in the household to take a seemingly good quality vegetable or good quality fruit, maybe organic, and you can take a little bit of, crush a little bit of that vegetable or fruit and put it on this device and look at it, and it gives a spectrum of the nutrient density. And if there's ever anything that shows nutritional gaps, even when shopping the outer aisles at the grocery store, there's nothing like that device to do it. That works. I didn't need convincing. I thought that tool might be valuable for others. But the reality is that, some people will never, either choose to understand or buy into the power of filling our nutritional gaps. But I guess just, big picture, if we were all eating, from great nutrient-rich soils from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and picking it at its peak and eating enough servings every day, maybe we could make a case for not filling the nutritional gaps with, vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients that come from, whole plant material, which is what Nutrilite is. But we don't live there. This is 2024, folks. And if you ever need to prove it to yourself, pick up one of those devices. I think they're probably less than $50 on Amazon. crush yourself a little bit of broccoli or a little bit of apple, a little bit of carrot, or whatever it is that you're buying, if you're buying that in the first place, and put it on that Brix device and look at the reading on there. And there will be some that are up in the upper, healthy, nutrient dense range, but there's others you're like, good grief, what is this stuff? It looks beautiful in the grocery store. I'm told it's nutritious. And it can change week to week, by the way, too. You can go to the same store, the same brand, the same apple, and it'll be a different reading on that nutrient density. So yeah, good luck getting optimal nutrition short of a supplementation routine.
Let me
Carol,
jump in
did you-
one more time.
Yeah.
I neglected to say that my youngest daughter, who ignores me, is a bit of a hippie. She's a nurse, a U of M nurse, and she has her gardens and she eats. And so they eat, all the round. She thinks that she eats all these. They're vegetarians, and so in her mind, she is eating healthy and doesn't has not fully grasped the idea that even doing all that, there are still gaps in your diet. Now you take my other daughter, who's kids, they read labels. My Nick will say, guess how many sugars are in this? I'll go, I don't know, 35. He'll go, no, 55. That's going to be good. And so he at least reads the labels, but they don't, their mom feeds them well, but they snack crappy. And they're the ones on Nutrilite, and they, Nutrilite has been able to overcome, their inadequacies in eating some of the right foods. Just interesting.
Yeah, that's a real good point there. Carol, you were saying something as well?
Well, yeah, I want to point out a particular fruit that really stood out in my mind as you were talking about the importance of, was actually in those fruits and vegetables. And I've always tried to buy organic apples as much as possible because they're one of the dirty dozen. But I go into even our finest fruit markets nowadays, and they're massive. And people think, oh, there's all kinds of nutrition in there. When in fact, Eric, I bet you if you took that apple and you put it in your machine, you would, and how much pumped up stuff is by an orange if you cut it in half, and it's got a ½ inch of that white, I think they call it pith on it. That's all forced grown fruits and vegetables. And so sometimes the bigger and more illustrious things if they look extremely oversized, I would say that in most cases, they have been pumped full of stuff. And I think I mentioned before, I'll just go real quick and say, if you can find a little label on your fruits or vegetables, there's a number on that. And if your number starts with 9 and then 4 digits, that's the one you want to buy because that's an organic. If it's just 4 digits and it starts with a 4 and then 3 other digits, then that is one that has been shot with pesticides or sprayed as we've known it for many years. But now there's a new one that starts with a 3. It's a 4-digit number, but it starts with 3. And that is one with new biological sprays and stuff that they put on it that we don't know what's in those. And the other ones were dangerous, but these are even more dangerous. So I would highly recommend, if at all possible, if you can find a label on it, do not buy one that starts with a 3. Try not to buy one that starts with a 4, but that's your second best. And then definitely buy one that starts with a 9 and then 4 digits after that, because that's going to be your organically grown. So, but the Honeycrisp apple is so obvious. They're so oversized and they look speckly almost, and you just know that they've been doctored up with some kind of a spray or a shot. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
No, that's great. I'm gonna share a recent experience and call it habit forming development that Emily and I have experienced with our shopping. And then after I do that, I'll open it up to anybody else that wants to chime in here. And if somebody wants to, great. If not, I'll do my little segment on atomic habits, but I would like to hear from anybody else first, and then I can do my atomic habits, and it'll be brief on the atomic habits part, but hopefully of value. But you know, Carol, you were the first person that I heard this from some episodes ago, and I want to thank you for that, because I was not aware of that labeling and starting with the 9. And recently, well, there's been a number of times where I've heard this again, gotten this information again. Most recently is in a book by Dr. Nasha Winters. I've mentioned about Dr. Nasha Winters, met her down at the Metabolic Health Summit in Florida. She's a leading cancer researcher, cancer survivor herself, stage 3 ovarian cancer, and for 30 years has been, you know, basically pioneering and developing a network of doctors and clinicians that work with cancer patients with a metabolic approach, okay? And it was in her content and her book called A Metabolic Approach to Cancer that she too talked about the labels on fruits and the 9, you know, starting with the 9 and everything that you just went through, Carol. So I want to thank you for bringing that to all of our awareness in the first place, and it has been reinforced. That said, when Emily and I would shop, I would tell you, even with that awareness, I don't know that I did a very good job of really remembering. And I'll just share this with you guys too, because this is a change in technique that we fell into, and it's made me very much aware. So we do most of our shopping at the Whole Foods in Okemos, and they recently instilled those self-checkouts, and they never had those before. I know most grocery stores do, but they did not. And we actually prefer the self-checkout. We just kind of like that, you know, for probably a variety of reasons, but here's my point. What do you do in a self-checkout? You're grabbing your thing of carrots, weighing it, queuing it, you know, looking it up, queuing it in. You're grabbing your apples, weighing it, you know, queuing it up. And again, we kind of like that process, but what are we doing when we're doing that? What do we have to do? We have to, like on apples and stuff like that, you have to look at the number on it. Well, most of them are like this, and you have to type in that number and then, you know, say how many you have or what the weight is and so forth. That's how you do. And prior, here's my point, prior we would just be standing there idly while the person on the other side of the register was doing all that for us, right? And putting it in our bag for us. And we would just sit there and stare at them while they did that. But we weren't looking at the label. They were looking at the label because they had to queue it in. So what I would suggest, or I guess what we're doing, we're not doing it for that reason. We're doing it because we like the self-checkout process. But I would say become more aware of your food by doing a self-checkout might be a little practice you could do, because you will be aware if you look at an apple and you're typing in that code, you will be aware, is it starting with a 9? Is there a 9 code on there like Carol is referring to, or is it a different code? And so, yeah, the self-checkout is a real great little tool to help you stay focused on those details. So, yeah. So with that, anyone else got anything, thoughts, questions?
Hey,
Hello,
Eric.
anybody?
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Larry, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Eric and everybody? You know, I was thinking about, as I was listening to our walk and talk this morning, I was thinking about where, you know, from that Atomic Habits book, we're talking about being more intentional. You know, a lot of the things that we're talking about, we're being more intentional. You know, I find that because we, as Hank often says, we have to change our thinking. And, you know, I find that sometimes I need to work on sometimes my worst enemy is myself, whatever's going on inside my head and what I'm thinking. And we have many times over the years, we've said many things about ourselves, a lot of negative things. And then we continue to say those things over and over again, like when we are not at the weight that we want to be, or we're not doing the habits that we want to do. Then we have over the years said many things. So we've created that as a habit. And even as we're on HealthPointe and we're working on changing our thinking and changing our other habits, we need to work on changing our thinking habits as well. And who was it? Hestetter, I think it was, that we had a book from him who talked about self-talk. And so many things that we have said to ourselves, we continue to say it. Oh, I'm too fat. Oh, that's too tight. Oh, I don't do this. Oh, I don't develop the habits. We continue to say those things to ourselves. And sometimes we're programming ourselves. But now that we're doing different things, maybe we should change our self-talk. And I find myself doing that many times to say, hey, that's not like me. Or no, I don't eat that, or I'm doing better, to start, because we listen to ourselves probably more than we listen to anything else. And so, our self-talk, what are we saying to ourselves? And so sometimes we have created the habit of saying negative things to ourselves. How about now that we're doing different things, and that to start saying more positive things about ourselves? Along with that Atomic Habits book, there was another book called Better Than Before. And we're better than before, because now we're changing our habits. And so we need to make our talk more intentional, that we're doing better than before. Yeah, I don't drink enough water, but I drink more than I used to. Yeah, I don't walk as much as I should, but I'm walking more than I used to. We're doing better than before. So just want to throw that in there. I'm sure that's not important, but it's just a thought. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Larry, it's very important. And you and I are on the same cloud, and you totally just queued up the first point. I kid you not, the first point of this Atomic Habits talk that I'm going to be talking about, because it's talking about identity-based habits, focusing on becoming the type of person that you want to be versus outcome, like who you are versus what you want to do. So I don't know how you did it, Larry, but you read my mind. So thank you for that. And so, yeah, I'm gonna get into this. And I almost feel compelled, like there's so many signals that are signaling that we need to talk about this even some more. The most recent one is I was at a wonderful dinner, invited to attend a small group dinner. I think there was 8 or 10 of us in the home of, her name is Dr. Susan Maples. Some of you may know of her. She's a really kind of legendary dentist in the Okemos, East Lansing area. And I didn't know how legendary she was, actually. Truth be told, I didn't know who she was. I think I was the only one in the Tri-County area that didn't. But I was actually playing pickleball, and I was wearing this shirt, and on the back, it's got something about, pre-diabetes help and stuff like that. And I felt this tap on my shoulder, and it was her. And she asked about that and gave me her card. And when I looked it up, I looked up her website and stuff like that. I saw that she's a dentist, very prolific dentist, but also she has a very strong passion in diabetes, because as a dentist, they're dealing with the ravages of people with diabetes and poor metabolic health. You can think about, if they do oral surgery or anything else like that, the healing, the disrupted, the inflammatory issues and stuff like that. So for that reason, and I'm sure more, she goes around and does talks on, of course, dentistry, but identifying diabetes in your patients, and does talks like that. And I was thrilled as I looked into it more to see that one of my kind of heroes, or somebody that I learn a lot from, you've heard me reference Dr. Robert Lustig. He's one of the leading endocrinologists in the nation, and is just an incredible source of information about metabolic health. He wrote the book Metabolical. Anyhow, here's this picture of Dr. Susan Maples, just, given, or, kind of a selfie with Robert. Come to find out, she just calls him Bob because they're like best friends, they're besties, and they share the stage a lot together. And so my point is that Susan invited me to attend a once a month dinner that she hosts at her home for wellness professionals. So there was an integrative cardiologist there was herself, there was just a real team of like-minded people. And it was just real kind of like a family gathering is what it felt like sitting down with a family to a table. It wasn't some formal networking type of a thing. It was just very conversational and so forth. And Susan, who I'm learning more and more about, but one thing I can tell you, she's very gracious and very giving. And for all of us, not only did she host us at her home, not only did she refuse any help, and apparently she has a habit of doing this. She wants to cook all the meal, won't let you do any dishes or anything. But also, when we left, she gave everyone a copy of Atomic Habits. Okay. And of course, we're familiar with Atomic Habits within HealthPointe. Some of those folks, that was the first time that they had heard of James Clear or read his book. And so they're in for a real treat. But with that occurring, as well as other kind of signals, I thought it might be good to do a little bit of a elongated segment on Atomic Habits. And so I think many of us that are certainly live on here have either listened to the audiobook or read the book, or maybe read the book 17 times. So my point is not to do an exhaustive review here, but rather hit on one key point. But I will do a little bit of a review. I'll hit on, there's 3 points, the core principles of habit formation. This is all according to the book. I'm going to hit on 4 strategies for effective habit formation, and then a couple of points on overcoming challenges. And again, just real briefly, because of course, just read the book. It's a great resource. So again, like Larry queued up, thank you again, Larry. Identity-based habits. This is point number 1 on the 4 core principles of habit formation. Focus on becoming the type of person who can achieve your goals, not just the outcomes. And I think that's what Larry was talking about. So much of this is in terms of self-talk. And so in HealthPointe, and we've heard it so many times here, even in this Zoom, is, I am a healthy person, or I choose to do these things. It's not so much of a outcome-based habit, but rather an internal identity. And certainly as you move through and grow in HealthPointe, you see yourself as a healthy person, not achieving a healthy outcome. Yes, there's that too, but you just see yourself as a healthy person. I'm sure we could go around the horn here and say, Kathy, do you see yourself as a healthy person? Larry, do you see yourself as a healthy person? Carol, do you see yourself as a healthy person? With your own self-talk. So that's point number 1, is he says, focus on the identity-based habits, not just outcome. Next point on the core principles of habit formation is the 4 laws of behavior change. And we've heard this many times about cue, craving, response, reward. Again, Kathy, you queued this up, no pun intended, but we talked about the cue, right? So if you want to have these behavior changes, and I would argue that first one is probably the most important point, of the 4 laws of behavior change: cue, craving, response, reward. Cue is the big thing, and having a time and a space that cues that up. With Kathy, it was things like going to the copier, or doing her dishes, or folding laundry, etc. Those are cues that set that up. Then the environment's role. Highlight how making cues obvious and the environment conducive can facilitate habit formation. So setting up our environment for that, and we talk about that in HealthPointe for sure, particularly with the prep days. Okay, we've got 3 days before the start of a 6-week cycle. What's that mostly about? setting up our environment, right? Where we're, you know, going through our home, the cupboards, the refrigerator, the freezer, and so forth, doing what we need to do to create that environment. So again, those three core principles of habit formation: have identity-based habits, you know, focus on the 4 laws of behavior change, and then, you know, recognize the role of your environment. Okay, then 4 points on the strategies for effective habit formation. Number 1, real quick, make it obvious. Okay, make it obvious. Number 2, make it attractive. Number 3, make it easy. I know, Carol, you and I were riffing back and forth sometime this week where we were talking about this. You're using the term friction. You know, we were kind of making jokes about certain industries that seem to have like high friction, and other usually you know, savvy business owners that make it low friction. So make it easy. So make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And that comes in, we were talking earlier about the cue, and then at the end, the reward. That's part of the making it satisfying. And candidly, I think a lot of the satisfaction can be just that checking the box. You know, it has its own reward in their own satisfaction. It could be the, you know, 10,000 steps buzz on your Fitbit that gives you that satisfaction. It could be you just checked in with your coach yet again on a daily basis. That in and of itself is satisfying and rewarding, and we want to have that. So again, the 4 points of the strategies for effective habit formation according to Atomic Habits: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And then the 2 points on overcoming challenges, talking about avoiding and breaking bad habits. You know, basically kind of do the opposite of what you're doing to create good habits, right? If you've got some bad habits, if it's the cookies and cream ice cream, if it's too much TV, you know, make those types of things difficult. If you've got substance issues, alcohol, get that out of the house. You know, if you want to go have some beer, make it so that you have to drive to the grocery store and pick up some beer. You know, make it difficult and unattractive to do that. And then the second point, staying on track, the importance of quick recovery after lapses to prevent new habits from forming. There was a point in here that when I was reading it, where it said, you know, we all, you know, kind of mess up in the journey, right? And he made the point that if you do that once, that's a mistake. You know, everybody makes a mistake, or you just fall off track. But you do it twice, like 2 days in a row, and now you're starting to rewire a different habit. So watch out for that and be quick on your recovery. It also makes me think, when I think of staying on track, I know those of us that have heard so many wonderful talks by Bob Andrews. And I remember once very visually, because he's very much into bike racing, like the Tour de France and so forth. And he himself is quite a prolific rider. And he talked once, I remember vividly, where he talked about the difference between the top performers in that field and those that aren't. I'm sure this is probably across the board on almost all athletics, is the speed of recovery. So they have obviously everything is measured with those types of athletes, but you just imagine being on these bikes and you're just, you're pumping it up this huge mountain, going through the Pyrenees or wherever they're going, and your quads are just exploding, you're gasping for breath, you're just going. And finally, you get to the top of that hill, and maybe you're a bunch of other riders with you, and your heart rate is just up at a peak, and you're just screaming for oxygen, you're fatigued. Now, once you get up that hill and can get into a different state, what is the amount of time that it takes your heart rate to come back down to a more normal rate? That's the speed of recovery that he was talking about. And the same thing with our habits, the same thing with our health journey is when you get into those situations where maybe you don't do your optimal, does that blow you out for a week? Does that blow you out for a year? Do you give up? You know, do you, you know, say, hey, I'm a big failure? Or do you just recognize that you're actually human and we all make, you know, errors and mistakes, and nobody has like a continuous string on all elements of HealthPointe all the time for the rest of their life. You're going to have those times. You know, Eileen talked about it a little bit when they were on their cruise. Okay, they dipped into this, they dipped into that. She's not a failure. She has a recovery. She's already recovered. It's that speed of recovery for staying on track. So those are the two points that he talks about in terms of overcoming challenges, is avoiding and breaking bad habits, you know, kind of having a strategy for that, and then staying on track, and that importance of that quick recovery when you do go off track a little bit. But the point that I wanted to make on all of this is that kind of what Carol and I were talking about at the beginning of her segment, where I kind of chimed in and said, you know, how many of these people that are giving these, you know, blogs or books or YouTubes actually coach anyone? And I don't mean that to be a dig, because it is actually all very valuable information. I appreciate the fact that everybody's, you know, so many people are putting good information out there. But here's what I would say is, of the people that read this book, okay, so Susan passed out this book to all of us, and, you know, people are reading it. If they're not on HealthPointe, here's what I know with HealthPointe. With or without somebody reading that book, they immediately have an application of the principles of atomic habits. It's you start on a Monday. It's a 6-week cadence. You start on a Monday, you're checking in every day with your coach, and it's an implementation. It's an application of these atomic habits principles through and through. Whereas, how many read James' book? I saw on, when I was looking into this, I went back into Amazon. There's like 125,000 5-star reviews on that, or reviews. I don't know if they're all 5-star, but he's got a 5-star, but 125,000. So how many millions have read Atomic Habits? And thankfully, I'm sure a lot of people have been able to apply it. But how many people get done reading that book and go, wow, that was amazing, great book, but they don't really have an immediate application? Or if they do have an application, now they have to kind of think that up and put it together and structure it and start implementing these things. And whereas with folks on HealthPointe, with or without reading the book, what I know is they will be living the concepts of atomic habits starting day one, actually starting before day one with their prep days, but certainly starting day one on a 6-week cycle. And, you know, that is the difference, is that it's not just learning, it's just not just reading, it's not just enjoying, it's not just giving reviews on the book, it's actually applying it and having an environment with a coach where you can apply those principles of atomic habits. So all due respect to James Clear, and tons of respect to him. It's an amazing book, but even more respect and appreciation for the HealthPointe program, because we're able to take those principles and actually put them into application every day and live them and benefit from these principles of atomic habits. So that's what I wanted to talk about on atomic habits. I'll wrap with that. I think we're right on, well, we're a little bit over, but anybody have anything else before we, I wrap here for our segment and get this up on YouTube? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody?
Happy
No?
Easter.
Happy Easter. Yes. Happy Easter, everyone. And with that, so thanks so much for everyone attending and contributing. We'll see everyone next Saturday, same time, same place. Till then, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Easter. Bye,
Happy Easter,
everybody.
everybody.